active versus passive income. Why is that important to you? What is that going to look like for you? And maybe you have no clue at this point, and that's totally okay. The whole purpose of this is to really start to begin to get you thinking on how can you move past the basics, right? What is it really going to take for you to get there? And for what I'm recognizing for most people, it's understanding where you are and what's in the gap, right? So where are you going to actually take the result for where you're at today? And most people don't recognize, where they actually are at today. So whether that is truly living paycheck to paycheck and, there are amounts of debt that have to be paid off, like that's a whole different mindset and ball game than, all right, I'm doing pretty okay for myself. I feel good about it, but I'm really just missing some pieces here. And I really need that accountability and that support in order to move forward. And so that's where I want to kind of dive into a little bit around the mindset of it. There's a concept in psychology really called a distancing factor, so psychological distancing. And I want to try to explain it in just the simplest of terms so that you can start to begin to recognize where your mindset is when it comes to building wealth, creating that income for yourself, and that money mindset. For some people, a year feels very short. For other people, a year feels very long. And this is very subjective, right? For me, I feel like a year is so much time, 365 days to do all the things I want to do. I just feel like a plethora of time. But for some people, a year feels like, very condensed. It feels really short. It feels really scary to try to set goals in 1 year or accomplish goals in 1 year or set results and see those results. There's that time factor, which I just described. Then there's a space factor, here versus there. So the psychological distancing of I am here right now. I want to be there, like physically. I want to be in a new location. I want to be somewhere else. And then the third one here is relationally. So me internally versus them externally, other people. And then the last one is probability. So guaranteed versus impossible. So you notice the contrast in all of these: time, space, relationships, and probability. So all of these represent psychological distancing. And the reason I'm bringing it up from a mindset perspective is if I sit here and I tell you, okay, we're going on a 1 year long journey to build your business, to build your endeavor, whatever that is, to create passive income. It's going to cost you $20,000 and it's going to benefit so many people. It is going to be statistically more difficult to get it done than we probably want it to be. But it's okay. We got this. Do you feel psychologically safe to proceed? Do you feel inspired to proceed? Maybe, maybe not. Or is your knee-jerk reaction to say, no thank you, I'm good. That does not feel safe. Gross. So the reason I'm bringing up this psychological safety is that happens constantly in our decision-making process, whether we're talking about active and passive income or whether we're just making decisions with our money. So I want to recognize it and bring awareness to it, because the more awareness we can bring to our mindset and where we're really having some of these knee-jerk reactions, the better we can be present to controlling it and actually shifting out of it. Recognize, create awareness. Hey, I'm not feeling too psychologically safe right now. Know that that's a part of your brain's mechanism to keep you safe. Because if it was a bad idea to proceed, you would want to think through that. You would want to make better decisions around that. And that's okay. So that first step is recognizing that even exists within your brain. Typically unconsciously, you have these knee-jerk responses from the decisions that you're making or not making. And really what I want you to dive into is pinpointing what your true concern is. If we're sitting here and talking about creating active versus passive income, and you're really having a lot of mental blocks around, I don't know if this is possible, like it's literally kind of a resistant process to you, recognize that and don't judge yourself for it, and that's okay. But recognize that's how you're feeling, recognize and bring awareness to it and acknowledge it, because that's the first step in being able to get unstuck from that. And then once you're really in an awareness of that, start to pinpoint again, try to really take out the judgment of it being good or bad. Just name and notice, okay, what is happening? What am I feeling? And what is the cause of that? So a lot of what questions. And then from that, start to really take some time to reflect on why that might be happening. This is where, again, I'm a true believer in journaling all of this out, because the more you can get out on paper, the more it will start to create momentum around what's actually happening inside of you internally. When you allow yourself to be safe, and when you allow yourself to really create this awareness, new things will begin to come up and new possibilities will begin to arise, especially when it comes to the money conversation that's happening in your head that you probably don't even recognize is happening. For a lot of my clients, when I take them through this, it is usually a pretty wide awakening, like light bulb moment of, wow, okay, when I was little, what I just thought of and what came up is at the dinner table, my parents constantly argued about money. So I have this resistance to even talking about money. I don't like the feeling that it brings up. And maybe then that happens with you and your spouse as well. So all of these things that happened at one point or another in our lives create triggering events that then don't allow us to move forward, because we're creating that psychological safety for ourselves. Maybe something happened there from a spatial perspective, there in time, a long time ago, and here and now it is affecting us. So acknowledge, but know that you have the control to move past it. And how do we really create this over time? Well, it's through small little baby steps. My intention here is to give you the tools to really be able to shift your mindset in that, which then allows your belief system to be renewed, to be reconditioned, to then allow yourself the new habits to create consistently over time. And over time is when we get results. The most impactful coaching programs, accountability I've ever had has happened over time. And in the environment and the world that we live in, where it's just this constant, like, now type of mindset, it doesn't really give us the space to allow for results to flow in. And that's what I want us to be aware of, is how do we really truly identify the results that we want and take the time to get there as we need to get there and create that consistency around it.